We move away from Manicourt and back to Aragon. Welcome to the Spanish round of the World Superbike Championship in 2025. It's round 10 of the season. We're drawing in on the season conclusion, and this is going to be a very interesting weekend. We're underway as the first session is go for the World Superbikes. Let's join our colleagues trackside then and get all of the latest news as we join TNT.
But yes, it's one of the longest tracks as well. I think arguably the longest on the calendar actually on World Superbikes. It is not intimate. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
So obviously the Super Pole race, the 10-lap race, this will be the longest Super Pole race we have all year long. So will that give a bit of a challenge to the X-Tyre if you do choose it? But here he is. The former World Superbike champion, double World Superbike champion, number 19, a double winner here last year. Can he qualify though, Greg? That has been the Achilles heel for this man for the last couple of years. Since the extra weight was put on with the new rules, he hasn't been able to get on the front two rows. Will he do it here at his favourite track? Because look at the statistics speak for themselves. 9 wins equal best, 11 podiums and 1 pole. Is it going to be 2 in his career this weekend?
As you say, double winner here last year and hasn't won a World Superbike race since then. He really could do with at least 1 victory over Bautista this weekend. But you were mentioning qualifying there, James. He's still yet to out-qualify Nicolo Buliga since they became teammates at the start of last season. This is Petrucci on the number 9 Barney Spark Ducati leading the Independence Championship. But he's also, as you can see, on 260 points, 3rd in the overall championship. 24 points ahead of Andrea Locatelli, and Bautista a further 6 in arrears. Bautista just 5th in this World Championship at the moment. And don't forget, mentioning Locatelli, he's the only rider other than Toprak and Buliga to have won a race so far this year, and that of course was back at Assen in the Netherlands when Buliga broke down in the closing stages. This is Toprak, Phil Marin alongside, and we've got an interview, James, coming up with Toprak in the show this weekend. And it does not seem likely now, as we were touching on at Magny-Cours last time out, that Phil Marin will be staying with him in MotoGP. And Toprak is saying it's a Pramac decision. It's not a Yamaha decision, it's a Pramac team decision. And for whatever reason, it seems as though they have their own thoughts there. It doesn't seem as though Phil Marin and Toprak will be working together. Toprak pushing very, very hard. Wonder how much of a difference that might make.
End of an era, isn't it? But all things have to come to a close. But that relationship with Toprak and Phil will forever be special for both men. They've had a wonderful time together and amazing memories. The percentage rate that Toprak has finished on the podium since 2019, Phil Marin and Toprak have gone home on a Sunday night with a smile on their face more often than not, and they'll never ever forget this period of time that they had, and they will be forever friends, I'm sure of that. But yeah, it is interesting. Obviously the technology is changing in MotoGP dramatically in 2027 with the 850cc, less aero, no ride height device, etc, etc. So are they needing someone with a lot of experience in MotoGP and not wanting then obviously with Phil, with his lack of experience with that technology, to come on board? Or is it just Phil, you know, because it's a massive life change going to MotoGP, 21 rounds, all of the travelling, you're away from home around 7 months of the year. It's not easy personally as well to be in that paddock. It's a bit of a cushy number here in World Superbikes. I know we complain a bit about it's a European Championship with only Australia on the calendar, but to work within the championship, to only have 12 rounds, to get back home from Spain and Italy and in Europe, it's quite a simple operation, and it doesn't intrude into your life too much, and MotoGP is a different thing as well, so I'm sure Phil Marin would have factored that into his lifestyle as well as.
Side by side here between the factory Honda of Xavi Vierge, his teammate, as James has already said, is Tommy Bridewell this weekend, because Lecuona, Ike Lecuona, missing this home round, still out of action, having broken his left arm, remember, in an incident that was triggered by this man, Andrea Iannone. We've got an incident with him coming up this weekend as well, because he won here last year, despite having no fuel around the last 2 corners, as you spotted at the time, James. Iannone's only World Superbike win so far, and he didn't really have much good things to say about the Go 11 team. There was lots of talk about Vierge taking the ride, but now I think it's fair to say it's the worst kept secret in the paddock. Whole media centres talking about the fact that Xavi Vierge will be joining Andrea Locatelli at Pata Yamaha next season. That was Bridewell we were watching there. But yeah, Vierge to Yamaha, we await the official confirmation, but that's an interesting one, James. It seems as though Jan and Ju will be staying in Supersport in the end, because he had been linked with that ride, so had Miguel Oliveira, but it seems as though he's going to join Petrucci at BMW for approximately €1 million. So there's a lot of talk around at the moment about what's happening next year.
Yeah, Miguel Oliveira to BMW, that's exciting. He's obviously still competitive. He's not had the easiest of times in the last couple of years with injuries. He's been taken out quite a lot, so it'd be great to have a Grand Prix rider within the paddock as Alex Lowe's looks to the screens just to see what's happening. Sam Lowe's had a bit of a unlucky weekend. He had the it was of race 1, and that spoilt Sam's weekend completely, but he has won Moto2 races around here. He's beat the best of the best around this circuit, so keep your eye on the Sam Lowe's. But interesting story you just said there, Greg, with Yamaha, with Xavi Vierge moving up possibly to be Andrea Locatelli's teammate. That was an interesting signing, wasn't it?
Very interesting signing. If it happens, and we're pretty sure it will happen, aren't we? I'm expecting that announcement to come very soon indeed. I also don't know, this is totally my speculation, James, but I wonder whether the Oliveira announcement might come when we get to Estoril in 2 weeks' time, bearing in mind that it's a Portuguese round. Of course, I doubt Miguel will be there because of MotoGP commitments, but I wouldn't be surprised if that brings a few more media representatives in, with just under now 38 minutes to go in this session. Here's Tito Rabat, world champion, of course, in Moto2 in 2014. He's had some good days around here in his Grand Prix days. I wonder what's going through his mind, though, these days. He can't really contend, can he, at the moment, with AMA Honda, based on what they've done so far this season. There's a lot of talk, wasn't there, about Taz McKenzie leaving, and, of course, he eventually did, to go to the MGM Bonovo squad. And talking of a lot of talk as well, Ryan Vickers. I mean, what I'm hearing now is that Ryan's going to be on a PBM, Ducati and BSB next year. We know he's been shopping around, James. He was with his manager Roger Burnett at Assen BSB last weekend, and lots of talk here in the media centre yesterday about the fact he was supposed to be on a 2-year deal. Others were saying no, actually he was on a 1+1, but certainly the general feeling was he'd be staying with Moto Corsa, and now it seems as though Federico Caricasulo or somebody else is going to sweep in and take that ride away from Ryan Vickers. Yeah, it sounds like the goalposts were moved once the team were able to actually forecast how much it was going to cost them to run the brand new V4 Ducati next year. It was considerably higher than they were expecting, and they are requiring now a little bit more money from the riders, whoever are coming to the team. That's what we hear, and it looks like they are struggling to find that extra funding. And it'd be a shame, because Ryan showed some real potential, battling inside the top 10, top 6 on the odd occasion, and that's all you could expect from a rookie. He's moved to Italy as well. I mean, just up sticks and going there with all of that change and learning the language and the commitment that you've shown to that team. It will be a huge disappointment, I'm sure, if Ryan isn't here and he go back to BSB. But fingers crossed, it'll work out for him, and with a miracle, he'll find a little bit of extra money to carry on his career here in World Superbikes. Yeah, I had a bit of a chat with Ryan. I bumped into him actually in Alkirch Town a couple of nights ago. I said, we didn't talk too much about the future. We literally just said a quick hello. But I said, do you see yourself staying in Italy for the foreseeable, regardless of what happens? And he certainly seems keen to do that. But I guess time will tell. It might not necessarily be the most practical thing to do if he is back in BSB, but people have done it before, haven't they? Greg Lavilla used to travel in from Spain for every round, and Japanese riders have travelled to and for, so it can be done. It's not too far away. Yeah, and also the BSB calendar, it's not back to back to back, is it? With how many races they have, and also BSB doesn't start till sometimes March, April time, so you can pop back to another country in Europe and not feel like you're taking too much of a commute. Obviously, there's no jet lag, obviously, coming from Europe as well, so it could work out for him, hopefully. What was it like for you when you were on the Isle of Man? Because, of course, if you were doing a long-haul MotoGP, you'd probably have, I guess, 3, maybe even 4 flights sometimes, with internal flights from England or wherever you landed, Liverpool, Manchester, across to the Isle of Man. And if you come from America, you must have had some very long trips, actually. We did, and it was always that extra flight from London Gatwick or London City when you landed back from Australia, Malaysia, Japan. Get me home. It was. I mean, and sometimes the actual flight to the Isle of Man was one of the last ones as well. So you had always about 4 or 5, 6 hours in Gatwick or London City waiting for that one. But always worth it to get back on the rock. It was a beautiful place to live. Yeah, I was there for the first time earlier this year for the TT, and it is an absolutely spectacular place, isn't it? And a spectacular event at that as well. As you said before, James, no qualifying tyre this weekend, but just looking at the Superpole lap record, it's a 1:47.8 for Buliger. As you also mentioned before, if Bautista now goes second, they did test here, didn't they, recently? Okay, it wasn't the finest of weather, but it does change the game plan somewhat for the start of the proceedings here this morning. They've already got base setups dialed in on this track, so they don't have to go out there having not been here for a year. They've already got a pretty decent setup sorted, and now, later than usual, look, the BMWs of Vandermark and Toprak are leaving the pits. That's the first time Toprak's gone out this morning. Alex Lowe's, by the looks of things, is going to be the last to join the session. Not because they've got a problem, as we said, they've already got data, probably just saving tyres and waiting for the track to rubber in a little bit now. It's what we call a green track, isn't it, at this point in the weekend?
That's exactly it, Greg, and I think it's more the temperature as well. Like we say, it is cold at night time, and we're only just above 15 degrees air, and if they do have to run the SC0 on the rear, which is a harder compound, and I'm sure that this is the first tyre that these guys are on, you do need a bit of track temperature. Oh, and that's Montella's V4 Ducati has had enough already of the weekend's excursions.
Ironically, he stopped in exactly the same part of the circuit where Nicolo Buliger's engine blew on
up.
the warm-up lap, remember, when he should have started on pole position. I remember you spotted that on the warm-up lap, that it was smoking, and we couldn't believe it, could we? This time last year. Here's a replay, James. Let's look for him. That's Ryan Vickers.
Well, here he is, coming down to the braking zone for turn 11, and he immediately knows that the bike's gone from underneath him, turns in, and it's smoking. Lucky not actually to lock up the rear bike, but yeah. Red flag. We'll have to, I think, come out of this oil down there.
The Ducatis, they don't like the uphill section going from the bottom of the corkscrew all the way up to Marquez's corner here at Aragon. And yeah, that's a disappointing, because that really does take some time away. Mark Bonobo there, you can see that that's going to be a costly repair, that, for him.
Well, we're getting to that point in the year, aren't we, that things are being pushed to their limits. Remember, the Superbikes have 6 engines available, which is half of the number of rounds. 12 rounds, 6 engines. And remember, there are penalties in the way of double long lap penalties and a back-of-the-grid start if you do need to go onto a 7th engine. So hopefully, for Montella's sake and the rest of them, they're not too close to the end of their engine allocation, but don't be surprised to see a few engine allocation penalties at Estoril or Jerez. It usually happens. There's usually 1 or 2. I remember it happened to Michael Rinaldi, amongst others, last year. So the order is Buliger, Sam Lowe second, Bautista third. I'm seeing a pattern there already. Ducati. Vierge, who you're watching, is on target for 3rd place, but currently 4th on the Honda. He'll be much more relaxed now, won't he, knowing he's got his contract with Yamaha sorted out for next year. Petrucci is 5th, Jonathan Ray 6th from Locatelli, his teammates, Bassani, Iannone, and Taz McKenzie's had a good start to the morning, up in 10th place on his customer Ducati as JR goes up to 5th. Is this going to be 3rd for Vierge? Yes, it is.
Good prediction there. And Taz McKenzie, like you say, up to 7th. He will be enjoying his time around this Aragon circuit compared to previous years on the MAE Honda, that's for sure. The Honda, though, you'd have to say this is one of their strongest tracks over the last 5 years or so, because you'll remember Alvaro Bautista sticking the Fireblade on the podium a few years ago, and don't be surprised because they have a new swinging arm on the bike. They tested it at Jerez in the really hot conditions. It was 58 degrees track temperature, Greg, in the Jerez test not long ago, and they had a new swinging arm. It was giving him more contact on the way in, on the initial braking and the turning, which is this point here that Nicolo Buliger is just exercising, and he's getting much more feel from it. So the bike works well around here in general, and if the swinging arm can give a bit more grip on the entrance, they might get a bit better exit as well.
Wow, 58 degrees track temperature, that recent Jerez test for them, as Buliger just sits it up and uses the vast runoff area here at Motorland Aragon. If you're with us here on TNT Sports 2, we need to leave you for a moment, but the coverage continues uninterrupted, as always, on Discovery Plus.
Well, they'll go for an ad break with 30 minutes to go of the session. We'll keep on going. Buliger on top then, with Sam Lowe's in 2nd. Alex Lowe's just goes into 3rd position from Xavi Vierge. Javier Bautista. Jonathan Rea in 6th, of course, announced his retirement last time out at Manicure. And then the Italians, 7, 8, 9, and 11, because we've got Locatelli, then ahead of Petrucci, Iannone, then Tarrant McKenzie goes in 10th, Axel Bassani in 11th, Garrett Gerloff in 12th, Ryan Vickers 13th, Dominic Agata 14th, Michael Rinaldi in 15th, Sofagulu 16th, Remy Gardner 17th, Razgat Liolu in 18th place, but he's currently estimated to go first, with him being up by 0.092 in that second sector. Van der Maart just goes into 11th place as well, so that puts Jan Montella 20th, Tito Abat 21st, Zahadi in 22nd, and Tommy Bridewell, of course, Tommy Bridewell to all of us from the BSB, goes over. Lap time cancelled for exceeding track limits at turn 1 for Top Rat Razgaliolu, so Top Rat's gone down to last place now, but he is looking strong. As we take a look at the number 1, where is he coming into the last 2 corners now? Let's see what the traction is at the exit. Up across the line. Is this faster for Top Rat Razgaliolu? It's second fastest. It's a 1:49.120, about 8 hundredths of a second away from where he needs to be. So decent time there from Top Rack as they come back into it. So as you know, I'll cover the ad breaks, but let's head back over to TNT.
Out of the last corner, over the line, his first flying lap of the day. Toprak Razgatlioglu here at Motorland Aragon up into second place. Jonathan Rea, who like Alvaro Bautista, has the most wins here, 9 apiece. He's had a good start to the morning as well. Bautista is 6th, Rea is 7th, but Toprak straight in there on a 1:49.1. That's only 8 hundredths of a second down on his championship rival Nicolo Buliga, who's leading this session, free practice 1.
On the brakes, watch this, the rear end comes up about 1.5 foot, maybe 2 feet, maybe 3 feet, and it kind of locks the other way, and then that leg dangle then is the counterbalance to get the bike in line again to when it just starts to turn in. Everything is back in line, stable to hit the apex. But what bike control. 2 fingers on the brake lever there on the right-hand side. A beautiful new helmet design, by the way, that we're seeing from Top Rat this weekend. Phil Marin looking on. Nothing really too surprising. But I'm always surprised when I see Top Rat slowing a motorcycle down, because he's one of the greatest ever riders I've ever seen on getting a motorcycle stopped from 200 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. There's no one like him, and I can't wait to see him in MotoGP next year. But let's not forget, this was the round that he came back from that awful crash in Magny-Cours, and he came back after having multiple weeks off with that collapsed lung, etc., and he had 3 second places. And if you see the extent of his injuries and the time that he had off a motorcycle to come to one of the fastest, longest circuits on the calendar and stick it on the podium in all 3 races and pretty much look after his world title that he won last year was absolutely outstanding.
Look at that now, a 1:48.7. He's 3/10 up, and it's only his second flying lap of the day so far. While we're talking about BMW, by the way, can we just quickly express our condolences to the whole of the World Endurance team after the absolute heartbreak, James, at the Bol d'Or at Paul Ricard. I couldn't believe it. They were 28 minutes from the end of a 24-hour race, Sunday afternoon, at Paul Ricard just 5 days ago. Marcus Reiterberger was on the bike, Sylvain Ginterly, Steve Odendahl, everyone in the team, Werner Damon, Chris Gonshaw, waiting for him to come home, and the engine blew. One of the saddest things, one of the cruelest strokes of luck, James, I think I've ever seen in motor racing, full stop, 28 minutes from the end of a 24-hour race. We could not believe it.
You couldn't believe it, and I'm still lost for words now, as you could probably tell, because after doing 23 hours of a race plus, and then to cruelly let it just all slip through your fingers with a failure, a technical failure, no one could believe it. I saw Sylvain Guintoli's message about why he was really wanting to win as a tight smoke from Van der Mark. But I just want to say, Sylvain Guintoli, I know you'll be in Japan this weekend for MotoGP, but Luca, he knows who the champion is, and he'll always know who the world champion is, and that's his daddy.
Yeah, absolutely second that, James. I was actually just sending a message to Caroline Gintoli just before we went on air. I've been chatting with Caroline back and forth whenever we can, and we're thinking of you all the time, Caroline, and we know, well, we don't know exactly what it's like, but horrible times, and I think that's the main reason, well, without doubt, James, the main reason everybody was so upset in that garage, but they will come back stronger, I am absolutely sure, in 2025 with the endurance calendar having just gone out, the same order of races, Le Mans, Spa, Suzuka, and then Paul Ricard for the Bol d'Or. That team will be even stronger, won't they, as a result of what's happened there. Felt very sad for Marcus Reiterberger as well, because Chris Gonshaw, the technical director, has said to me, Marcus could have left us at many times over the years, but he is stuck with BMW through thick and thin. He's won multiple titles in the IDM series in Germany, the last ever champion, of course, in European Superstock 1000 as well in 2018. And I'm sure, do you know, Marcus Reiterberger said to me on the Friday night, he said, I woke up, I'd had a dream that we lost the race in the closing stages with an engine failure, and it's exactly what happened. But we must also take the opportunity to congratulate Yamaha, of course. Yacht Yamaha winning the Bol d'Or for the third time after 2009 and 2023, and of course the first victory they've had there since Nicolo Canepa has become a manager role, taken on a boss role as opposed to riding the bike itself. So well done to everybody there as well. Jason O'Halloran, Carol Haneker, and the entire team with Marvin Fritz as well. Jason O'Halloran, therefore, can now call himself, as Dan Linfoot did last year, a world champion. What a memorable finish that was to World Endurance last weekend. Now, what about this Yamaha? GRT and Domi Agata, twice a Supersport world champion, once a Moto E world champion. Right, James, at the moment for next year, what's he going to do? He wanted to get to Go 11, but he says, oh, moment for Alex Lowe's, moment and a half for Alex Lowe's there at the Marquez corner. But Agata saying, wanted to get into Go 11, too expensive, can't get in.
And it's going to be too expensive for most people, because we're hearing that it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands to get into that team. I heard it was 300 or 400 the last couple of years, but it's even gone even greater than that. And if you are right with your prediction that he's going to Yamaha, the shops are pretty much shut, aren't they, here in World Superbikes? If we go for the factory Ducati team, obviously we've got Iker Lecuona that was announced at Magny-Cours with Nicola Bulliger. Obviously Daniel Petrucci goes to BMW, and if the Oliveira rumour is done, that's the factory BMW squad sorted out. The Bimota team that you're looking at here, they stayed with the same riders with Alex Lowe's and Bassani. Sam Lowe's is staying with the Mark VDS team. Remy Gardner, he was signed as well a couple of rounds ago. So the Iker Lecuona and Xavier Vieja, the Honda riders, were the ones to kind of slot into place. Garrett Gerlach stays the same. So it's pretty much done, isn't it? If those riders are going to be signed in the immediate future, it's going to be tough for Dominic Agata to stay in World Superbikes and not find himself in Supersport next year. Yeah, there was also a rumour until yesterday, as far as I'm concerned, that the Moto X Yamaha team might disappear. It sounds as though they are going to stay, though, with at least Bahatin Sofoglu. So that's good news for Bahatin and for the Moto X Yamaha team. Of course, that's the squad that Bradley Ray was racing with last year and the year before. Brad not coming then.
Brad not coming, indeed. So he's staying in BSB, James. I mean, it's been a phenomenal season for him, hasn't it, on his return? But even more spectacular. Well, yeah, exactly. Even more spectacular for Kyle Ride, because I remember when I was catching up with BSB recently, and I heard Steve Day mentioning that puts Kyle Ride into the lead of the championship, and I thought, how's that happened? I thought Brad was dominating that.
Well, you talk about the Top Rack and Bulliger situation, of the consistency of Bulliger finishing second and keeping the pressure on this man here, and only 39 points is the gap between first place and second place currently. We talked about, obviously, with Bob Bayliss and Edwards in 2002 with a similar situation, but this is the circuit here at Aragon. Turn 1, turn 2, third gear through here, slightly uphill as you go through turn 4, and you've got to keep the momentum going. That patch of tarmac there has some bumps on it, which we saw the Jonathan Ray earlier hitting. You've got to be careful with that. Keep on the inside of it, and as you go around this double left-hander, a section of tarmac there that you just got to get used to the grip levels when it does change when you go over it, and then you come through this kink right, braking on the side of the tyre a long time here at this particular circuit before you fire it just over this hill before you hit the corkscrew. Down here, downhill, off camber, one of the most trickiest sections of any circuit anywhere in the world. Right, downhill left, before you then heavy accelerate down this hill before you get to the lowest point of the track here, mid-apex of this Marc Marquez corner, and you launch it up the hill, all the way over the crest again before it drops back down. One of the most technical corners here at Aragon, because it's downhill off camber once again before you go once again up the hill on the double apex right-hander before this chicane. You've got to get this right. Right and left first gear, as you can see, to get off this corner as well as you can, because look at the length of this straight. Fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear. The BMW begging for mercy before he shuts off and throws it into this double apex left. Look how quick the turning is. You go wide in the middle, cut it back to the second apex as you see it just here before you go over the crest onto the start and finish straight here at Aragon. It's a wonderful, wonderful track.
On the pit lane speed limiter now. We might be looking at the floor in a second if he gets a stoppie on the go, which he so often does. Let's see when he screeches his way in. Let's listen. Yes, he does. It's exactly what he does. It's always great to watch Toprak pre-season testing. He's done some outrageous stoppies all the way down the pit lane at places like Jerez and here and Barcelona over the years. Let's listen.
I think that Phil just said to him that in-lap was the fastest one currently that he was doing.
Toprak said, I know.
He's just going and said, I know. Obviously, he was doing 47s at the test, so a 48.3. I wouldn't say it was comfortable, because 48s around Aragon is never comfortable for any rider. But as you can see, the team, they found something, haven't they, Greg? In Most, they found something. And in Magny-Cours, it was the first time all season long that Toprak said, now the bike is doing what I want it to do for the first time this year.
Well, Serafino Fotti, the team principal from this team here, the Yoruba.it Ducati factory team, has been saying they've definitely found something. Budiger has said to me in an interview that you'll see this weekend, he said, Michael van der Mark blasted past Alvaro Bautista at Magny-Cours on the run down to the hairpin, coming through the quick right-hander at Golf. He said, how many times have you seen that before? Alvaro Bautista being passed on a straight on a Ducati, so clearly BMW's found something. Don't forget, we have had rule changes this year, one of which is that there is no longer an RPM limit on these bikes. There's overall combined rider and bike minimum weights. We've talked a lot about that, and ballast and everything else with Alvaro Bautista in particular, but there's no rev limit anymore. So BMW clearly has found something, and of course Van der Mark had a strong Magny-Cours as well.
Front and pushing and with the rear pushing because the engine brake not working immediately. I think the exit of the last corner good step with this grip. But I feel engine brake not there. But you're right there, maybe more fast. But the engine brake. Problem engine, I'm not feel the engine brake. If I feel engine
That was a really interesting conversation. Phil Maron, he's a class act. What Phil was doing there, because all Toprak wanted to say was there is not enough engine brake. And basically what that is, it's a mechanical thing. The internal components that are moving around, when you shut the throttle off, they slow down, and then they slow the rear wheel down because it's connected to it via a chain, obviously. And if the rear wheel, let's see if we can hear some more of that.
every corner I feel similarly. The first corner not, and corner 5 I feel a little bit. Corner 7 I'm not feel, but corner 8 I feel. I feel engine brake, but also some area I feel 5, 7, 8, also 12, 13. No, 5, 8, 12, and
Phil's got a lot to do this morning. There's a few corners he's talking about. So yes, so as soon as you shut the throttle off on a motorcycle, the components inside the engine slow down, which then slows the rear wheel down. And the rear wheel can slow down faster than the speed that you're traveling on the circuit. So when Nicola Bulliger's coming down the straight, he shuts the throttle off on the brakes, and then the rear wheel can slow down quicker than he's going, which then locks the rear up because it's skidding, if that makes sense. So Toprak is wanting more of that. So he's wanting the rear wheel to slow down faster than it is doing to help him slow the motorcycle down. But Phil said, is it because of how much grip we've got now? You're coming off the last corner faster, so you're faster at the end of the straight, which makes slowing the bike down a little bit more difficult. And Toprak went, no, it's just the engine brake. But Phil just wanted to delete that and wanted to just mention it to Toprak to have in mind that's maybe why he's having that problem. That was brilliant from Phil, that.
So bearing that in mind then, if he's not going to be working with him next year, how important might that be? Because from a psychological point of view, and we've seen this with Pere Riba and Jonathan Ray, haven't we, in the past, how important might it be that it sounds as though Phil Marron will not be working with Toprak? That's something we need to get our opinions in about, and please do that. James M. Tozand on X and Instagram, Greg Haynes TV on Instagram, and also Bikes at TNT Sports. The only place Toprak's not the fastest rider at the moment is the last sector, where he's losing a 10th to Alvaro Bautista. Back in a second.
Yeah, with 15 minutes to go of the, well, 14 minutes to go now of this session. It is Toprak Razgatlioglu fastest, 1:48.385. Bulaga goes second, Sam Laird's and Alex Lowe's third and fourth. But now the longer runs are starting to take place here as things go. And I think that's a good sign, although Toprak to be 7/10 ahead of Bulaga is just absolutely insane. What a fantastic run he's having at the moment. Honestly, it very much was the first half of the season. Bulaga, second half of the season has been a Toprak domination once again. And now we're getting towards the tail end of the season where they're really going to have to start picking up the pace. I'm enjoying it. I hope you're enjoying it too, back at home, because this is going to be a wild end to the season. We'll be with you for the remainder of the year here on JB Motorsports as well. I think on Sunday, race 2, the World Feed will take you through that one, or Omi. It's one of the two in the box. But I'll be here with you for race 1 and the Superpole race coming through. He said the Tissot sprint coming through. But this weekend, just a quick reminder, we've also got the MotoGP Japanese Grand Prix. You can join us for that tomorrow, 2:10 a.m. British summertime for all the action, followed then by qualifying, and that will be on JB Motorsports, the same as the Tissot sprint. Back here on JB2 for Practice 3 and Superpole of World Superbikes before Aragon Race 1 goes to the main channel. And then we've got Kansas qualifying and Xfinity race for NASCAR. Back to the TNT.
Just looking at the top speeds here at Motorland Aragon, and you're on board with the bike that has registered the top speed so far, 320 kilometers per hour, 198 miles per hour. It's Alvaro Bautista, and right behind him, the rider who's the second fastest through the speed trap so far, Xavi Vierge on the Honda. It's Ducati, Honda, Ducati, BMW, Ducati then, down the back straight where the speed trap is located just before they hit the brakes for the entry to the last two corners, turns 16 and 17. I've got a good feeling about Vierge this weekend, James, and I remember you saying the same thing when we were commentating on practice last time at Manny Corey. Then had an incident, didn't he? But looking very, very comfortable indeed. And of course, his future's sorted. It's not yet been officially announced, but the whole paddock's talking about it. Vierge to Pata Yamaha for 2026 to join Andrea Locatelli. What an interesting lineup that could be. And then, of course, it'll be Manzi alongside Gardner, but also on full factory bikes at GRT. So Yamaha, I think it's going to be a pretty exciting 2026 for the riders in blue.
I heard that Chan Onchu did have a test on the Superbike, but it didn't go overly well.
Apparently half a day at Cremona and then started raining. But yeah, Toprak and Keenan Sofoglu were bigging it up a lot, but I'm not sure Yamaha were overly impressed. That's the feeling we got, isn't it?
Something was amiss, but you never know if Xavi Vierge has a sponsor behind him. We know that obviously the Pata Max is a team. They've got sponsors and they have to accommodate also what their wishes are. If they would have liked a Spanish rider, etc., etc. So there is politics in this game, and the biggest talking point now, though, talking about Pata, is this rider here, Andrea Iannone. Won here last year, his only victory, like you were saying earlier, Greg, but it's been a torrid season for Andrea Iannone. He sits 11th in the championship, 378 points behind Toprak Razgatlioglu. And you thought the Phoenix was going to arise, which it did last year after the 4-year layoff with the ban. And he came to Australia, didn't he? He was on the podium in his very first race and won here. But this year, the consistency, other than the first 2 podiums at Australia this year, it's just been, you'd have to say, really disappointing.
Yet again, it's another reminder that we didn't need, but it's another reminder that you cannot take Phillip Island in late February as a gauge for the season ahead. Remember Eugene Laverty when he won there on a Suzuki, and we've had some other strange goings on in Australia over the years, and then it's often their highlight of the year. Look, they're not happy, are they? They are not happy down in that Go 11 garage We recorded an interview actually yesterday with Iannone. As we now move into the last 10 minutes, he's just not got a good thing to say. Having said that, though, as James now points at the timing screen, he is 4th in this session. Let's see what happens, but, you know, is he going to be able to take that consistency into the last 2 rounds at Estoril and Jerez? There is another interesting rumour doing the rounds, that the people who were involved and are involved in the team that was going to be running what I'm calling the Carl Fogarty BSB team. We know Foggy has now announced he won't be involved there next year, but there's a rumour that the same people might be able to field Iannone on a Ducati in this paddock next year. So it's that time of the year, isn't it? Some of the rumours become true. No doubt there'll be something else that crops up that nobody's yet mentioned, and some of it will be complete rubbish, but no smoke without fire. And that's definitely being discussed in this paddock this weekend here at Motorland Aragon in the northeast of Spain. That's Van der Mark, as you saw, bit of a moment under braking for turn 1, but he has just moved up into 6th place through the right-hander there of turn 2, where we so often see incidents in qualifying in particular, because it's the first right-hander since the top of the back straight. They're left, all the way down the back straight, left through the last 2 corners, down the start finish, through turn 1, and then they're on the right, and the right shoulder has cooled down by then, and you often see incidents, especially in the last few minutes of qualifying at turn 2, that can bring out yellow flags. So watch out for that when we get to Superpole here tomorrow afternoon.
Here comes Nicola Bulliger out of the final corner, and as you can see, he is not within half a second still. He wasn't within half a second at the test, and he's still not within half a second here on Friday morning, which is a little bit worrying. It will be for Serafino Foti and the Ducati team. Let's not forget, it was awful to see the Bordeaux situation for BMW, but there is a chance that there can be manufacturers champions here in World Superbikes for the first time, and that would be a little bit of repentance, wouldn't it, for them?
And that, in many ways, would be even more important, wouldn't it? Of course, they've won the Riders' title already with Toprak, but, I mean, James, you've ridden for so many manufacturers over the years, including BMW, Yamaha, Ducati. How important would it be for these marques to be able to, let's say BMW, plaster all over their showrooms around the world the fact that with that very bike that people can buy, they are World Superbike champions? Let's just try and listen to this. Remember, Toprak's never won here at Motorland Aragon. I've got a funny feeling that might change this weekend.
Yeah, and it will keep your eye on the record. The record is 13. He's on 12 at the minute, and obviously he could be 15. Jari Montella's got a bit of an injury. I don't know whether that was from Magny-Cours when he took everybody out at the Chateau d'Eau hairpin, but I'm sure it's not. Maybe I'm not sure what's happened there, Greg. Have you fallen out with him yourself?
No, I definitely haven't. Not yet, anyway. Jari Montella. Oh, well, he's looking down. This is back out. He had a problem earlier on, didn't he? How many?
Second, is it?
It's not a second. Surely that's a replay the first time, isn't it? It's got to be. How many laps has he done? 5. So this happened earlier on. He stopped. As James said, it sort of blew up in the same place. Yeah, that's right, because if they switch to the second bike, they can't go back, can they? And so it blew up in the same place as Buliger's blow up last year on the warm-up lap, and he stopped in the same place as Buliger last year, turned 14. But as a result of that, he's only done 5 laps in this session. He's down in 20th place from a 23 rider field, and this is a terrible loss of practice time because not everyone's tested here. Pretty much all the factory teams have, but not all the small teams. I don't think Barney did actually come. Go 11 with Iannone certainly did not come. We do know that Montella has re-signed, though, with that team for next year, and of course he's going to be joined, as we said earlier, by Alvaro Bautista. Budiger's lap time, it's a bit worrying, isn't it? Toprak here, he's still not exactly 100% pleased with the setup of the bike, James, but despite that, he's still half a second quicker than Budiger in second place and 1 full second, can you believe it, quicker than Bautista in 3rd place. That test they had recently is paying off handsomely.
And that's why Phil was just pushing back a little bit with Toprak and doing what a chief engineer should do. They should give a rider what he needs, not what he wants in some cases, and when you have an half a second advantage, it means that the bike is working well in these temperatures, in these conditions this morning at Aragon, and that's all you can go on. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, and Phil will just be tweaking the setting for Top Rack's bike. But there's nothing really to really panic about while your other competitors are as they are. You can see there the sector times, and Nicola Bulliger is fastest there. But yes, it's one of those situations where if you've got problems, imagine what it's like for this man at the minute when you're travelling around the track more than half a second slower, because to lap half a second faster, the forces on the bike, on the way in on the brakes, on the way out on the acceleration, the corner speed that you're trying to generate to go a half a second quicker than you have done previously, it takes a lot of change to the motorcycle and the rider's ability to be able to do that across the line.
Yeah, those sector times you were looking at just a moment ago, that was for Sector 4, and it was all Ducati, wasn't it? It was Bautista and Bulliger and Iannone and Petrucci. Of course, Sector 4 includes that very, very long back straight, just shy of 1 kilometre, 968 metres to be precise. Egerter then riding for his future. I don't know what your feeling is. My personal opinion, is a guess really, is that he's going to be in Supersport. That's a sort of educated guess. I think he might be back in World Supersport, James, probably on a Yamaha R9.
10 Carter again?
Next year. I mean, it would make sense, wouldn't it? Especially because Manzi's coming up, yeah, as we say, to GRT. I would just add, by the way, I do believe Manzi very likely would have been in this team, but they didn't want two Italians for marketing reasons in the same team. So they've promised Manzi full factory equipment in the GRT squad. Obviously, otherwise it would have been Locatelli and Manzi as an all-Italian liner. It's all to be considered, but I guess it's quite a luxury, isn't it, when you've got that situation? You've basically got two reference teams, as they're known.
I am a little bit surprised if it is going to be Chava Vieja like you think. I'm surprised that they might. I'm sure they've had a consideration to move Remy Gardner up to the factory team, because he has shown real potential at times this season. But, you know, the politics are the politics, and I really hope that Chava Vieja finds that extra little bit, because Chava Vieja is a safe pair of hands, is a world-class rider. On his day, he can be in the top 6. But for me, when you have to grit the screen and just get a result that you can't really, or you're not supposed to get on a package, this is Paul Denham, the team manager, that we're talking about his team at the minute. I don't think Chava Vieja has got that 0.3 of a second consistently for 20 laps, overriding the bike and still being able to control it. On his day, Ika Lecuona has shown that when it takes someone to just eke a little bit more out, he's got a bit more potential than Xavi, and that's probably why he's got the factory Ducati ride.
Incidentally, when he was teammates with Alain Tescher, Vieja had his first ever big podium here, and that was back in CIV Superbike in the day. It also means, of course, that once again Honda's going to have a totally new lineup. We didn't know whether Vieja might be retained to have some consistency there. We very much believe it will be Jake Dixon and Somkiat Chantra at Honda. Gerloff here on a good lap on the Kawasaki. But again, it's another complete change, isn't it? Remember, they had Haslam and Bautista, then they went to Lecuona and Vieja. 4 years we've had now. 2022, 3, 4 and 5 of Vieja and Lecuona, and it looks as though it's going to be Dixon and Chantra next season. There's a lot going on still behind the scenes as well with the relation to Honda UK, and of course we've all read about the shock departure of Javier Beltran from Honda UK, which you would have read in the press after nearly 40 years. So that's been making headlines over the last few days. But let's see what Gerloff can do. Up to the left-hander on the Kawasaki, the only Kawasaki on the grid, turns 16 and 17. He's staying with this team in this championship next year. Over the line he goes, and he moves up from 15th to 7th place. And with just over a minute to go, it's a good time, James, to mention that Bobby Fong will be rejoining the Superbike World Championship. Friend of Garrett Gerloff, the current Motor America Championship leader, will be joining us with his same team, same Yamaha, for the last 2 rounds of the season. That's going to be good to see.
Fabulous. I don't know if anybody saw Top Rack's results at the Circuit of Americas a week ago.
I think that definitely scared Cameron Barbier and all the Motor America riders.
I think Fong and Barbier and all the rest of the boys, I think they're a sigh of relief that the Turkish rider is not racing in AMA at the minute. But yeah, Top Rack had been there before, I think back in 2014 with the Red Bull rookies.
Yes.
But obviously 11-year wait, and this man here goes and beats the record on a stock bike. It must be demoralising when someone comes over like that, that's not seen the circuit for 10 years, on a stocker, and puts the lap record in. Quite incredible from top.
He was telling me it was a BMW event they arranged there, but it's clever, isn't it, to learn the track on a quicker bike than the Red Bull Rookies bike he was on well over 10 years ago. And as you've already said, learning the tracks and learning the tyres are the two most important things. As the checkered flag now comes out here on free practice 1 at Motorland Aragon, and your order is on what is always known as a Ducati track. It is Toprak on the BMW, half a second quicker than Nicolo Buliga, 1 second quicker than Alvaro Bautista.
0.3 though now, he's just clawed it back. Oh no, sorry, half a second, so that was the first split I'm looking at. Apologies, Greg, you are right. So yeah, half a second. He was half a second faster in the test, like I said before, and he's half a second again. Ducati, they have got a lot to find this afternoon before FP2 and then before qualifying to claw that back. This is Garrett Gerloff again coming across, but he's messed up the last split, as you can see. So, and then obviously Nicolo Buliga here goes across the line and is 0.9 of a second off on that. So the rear tyre just dropping off a little bit. But Xavi Vierge, you know, maybe a little bit more relaxed with the contract nearly signed for Yamaha, and he's obviously confident here. The whole, that's Van der Mark. He's lost the bike there. That is an unusual place to lose it. He's gone into the final corner at turn 16, and he must have lost the front halfway around the corner, because that's a long, long way. This is the actual circuit that Greg was talking about, with that the cars do with the hairpin right at the end of the straight. But here's a replay. We've missed the first part of it, but that must have been a 150 mile an hour crash, because that's what you're turning into that corner at. So nice to see Mike. He's got away with that one.
I can't imagine what that feels like, crashing a motorcycle at 150 miles an hour, James. It's bad enough at 5 or 10.
We've got a feature, ladies and gentlemen, that Stratford-upon-Avon's finest has strapped on a set of leathers at a go-kart track with Mr. Benyat Fernandez, I believe, and it's going to be in the show this weekend, so please stay tuned, because you're going to see Greg Haynes being a rider, and I tell you, it's going to be TV gold.
Right at the end of the day tomorrow, we are reliably informed, that will be shown. I have to say, though, I mean, I can see why you would miss it so much. It's an unbelievable freedom, isn't it? There was one bit, I don't know whether it will make the final edit, but I was talking to you, I said, JT, you do the commentary, I'll stay out here. By the end of the day, when I was feeling a bit sore and battered, I thought, no, the commentary box is fine, I'll deal with the microphone, not the handlebars. But it is such a sense of freedom, and you can feel the air coming through it. It's so nice, isn't it? It's an escape.
Looking at Mikey van der Mark there, do you have a newfound appreciation for what these riders do when they're sliding along the tarmac a little bit? Because I heard there was a couple of excursions, Greg.
I mean, the thing is, you know, as you just seen, Van der Mark's a pro, he's a world champion, he's had a crash. You've got to find the limit in free practice 1. Even Toprak can have an incident every now and again. You know, Buliga, they all do it.
Do you know, you've got
to find the limit somewhere, James.
The only disappointment I have this whole story, and I can't wait for the feature to come out later, is we've missed these moments.
If you're disappointed, imagine how, if you're going to crash your bike, at least record it.
I can't believe we've missed the action of you getting it slightly wrong into a couple of the corners, but we've still got enough action for you viewers at home to have an absolute yes, it's going to be a joy for the eyes.
It is quite something, actually, and it's such a physical thing as well. I mean, it's so easy to watch. I can't imagine, though. Benyat was flying past me at some points, deliberately going very close to me. You know, he's on his training bike, Supersport 300 training bike. I can't imagine what it must be like for a Superbike or a MotoGP bike. It is unbelievable. It's incredible.
It's the best job in the world, other than commentating with you, Greg. It's the best job in the world to go down this straight at 200 miles an hour on a motorcycle and throw it into this corner at about 150, like we were saying. There is nothing that comes close to the natural adrenaline rush of being a motorcycle racer. An Aragon circuit allows you to have the most fun, because it's one of the most fastest tracks on the calendar. And here,
Top right Rascalioli tops the session for Nicolo Buliga and Alvaro Bautista, Xavi Vierge, Sam Lowes, from Andrea Iannone, Michael van der Mark, Garrett Gerloff, Alex Lowes and Jonathan Ray rounds out the top 10. Then we get Andrea Locatelli, Daniel Petrucci, Tat McKenzie, Dominic Agata, Axel Bassini, Tito Rabat, Ryan Vickers, Remy Gardner, Michael Rinaldi, and Marian Sofagulu, Yao Montella, Zakwan Zahadi, and Tommy Bridewell in 23rd position. We shall be back for all of the action from Free Practice 2 this afternoon at 2 o'clock here on JB Motorsports 2. Thanks for your company. We will see you later on. Take care and bye-bye.